Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, another tunnel collapses in Gaza. Graffiti artists transform Jerusalem, and an Israeli man makes a life-changing discovery in a market in Tel Aviv. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. There's been yet another tunnel collapse in Gaza, and at least 5 Hamas members are reportedly injured. Palestinian media is saying the collapse occurred in the Zitan neighborhood, which is just southeast of Gaza City. There's also an unknown number of missing diggers, and rescue teams are still searching for them. This is just the latest in a series of tunnel collapses in recent months, which have killed nearly a dozen Palestinians. Israelis are increasingly concerned that Hamas is digging tunnels that will be used to attack Israel. The terror group is only fueling the fear by bragging that they've rebuilt all of the attack tunnels that Israel destroyed in Operation Protective Edge. For now, the Israeli government has refused to comment on the tunnel collapses, but Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel is taking steps to deal with the threat. It'll probably come as no surprise to hear the chief of Hamas is threatening Israel. But it may shock you to hear he's also threatening the Palestinian Authority, saying nobody will be able to stop the current wave of terror. ILTV reporter Denise Wood has more on this story.
Hamas chief Emile Haddad is threatening Israel and the Palestinian Authority and says they can't stop the wave of terror, which he is calling an intifada. His statements show a massive rift between the Palestinian leadership, and he claims the Palestinian Authority is wrong to cooperate with Israel. The PA and Israel have cooperated to ensure security in the West Bank for years, and it looks like Hamas wants it all to end. The Hamas chief is praising the release of Palestinian hunger striker Mohammed al-Kik, saying his release is proof that the occupation can be defeated. He says Hamas is digging new tunnels under the Israeli border, even though he recently denied that the group is trying to start hostilities with Israel.
Lately, we've heard a lot of news about how Iran is funding terror groups and planning to reward Palestinian terrorists. Now, it looks like an American court is taking action to help out the victims and is ruling that Iran has to pay them millions of dollars in damages. A U.S. federal appeals court is ruling that terror victims who have won financial claims against Iran can collect $2.8 million from the country. The 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals says the money was previously frozen and has actually grown to more than $9.4 million, including attorney's fees and interest. Iran will owe the money to victims of terror attacks, including the survivors of a 1997 suicide bombing in Jerusalem. Even though the bombing took place in Israel, the court is ruling that Iran trained the bombers and gave them the supplies to build the explosives. The court says Iran has to pay the survivors damages ranging from $2.5 to $15 million. As a wave of terror continues in Israel, it seems the end is nowhere near. But is that really the case? We have a special visitor in the studio today. Yaakov Bailey is a former head of the Shin Bet, and he currently serves as a member of the Knesset for the Yesh Atid party. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for having us.
So, it seems that Israel has been losing the war against terror in this recent wave of violence that we're seeing. Is it fair to say that?
No, I don't think it's fair to say. We have witnessed waves of terror since 1967 and before that as well. And it's a wave, a continuous wave, which there is a real problem to stop it or to manage it. Mainly because of the fact that there are lone wolves. And in the case of a lone wolf, you cannot gather intelligence and forecast when a terrorist act is going to be executed. So youngsters, men and women, are deciding in the morning to stab or to run over or to shoot a Jew, an Israeli, a policeman, a civilian, a guy who protects a mall or something, and they are executing it after a couple of minutes, a couple of hours. Now, the awareness of citizens and the policemen and the army is really something incredible, but in order to stop it, you have to change the environment.
That's what I want to ask you. How do you suggest combating this trend of lone wolf attacks?
Well, you have to change the environment, and I don't want to go too deep into political issues. But in order to stop just such a wave, you have to create an environment of hope, environment of something which is going to be built in the future, because the reasons of this wave, the main reason was the dispute around the Mount Temple, but the main issues are incitement, despair, frustration, and in order to stop it, you have to change the environment. In order to change the environment, the government has to initiate.
Well, that's one of the big questions that we see here, because, you know, right now, Herzog says that a two-state solution is not a viable option right now, and obviously that's been a rhetoric that we've been hearing from the current government coalition. So how do you change that environment if that's the mentality that exists right now?
Mr. Herzog didn't say that you cannot do a deal. He said it's not the right moment now. And no doubt that we have a difficult and a problematic partner. I'm not going to advocate the Palestinians because, I mean, it's a real problem. But Israel is the strongest and the most capable country in this area. And we have to initiate some steps. It can be bilateral steps, it can be unilateral steps, and to change the way that people are thinking, which there is a dead end or a deadlock. You have to open hope. You have to open some vision towards the future. And it doesn't matter what kind of political solution we will get. But the fact that Israel is totally criticized by the international arena, international world. I just came back from a visit to the European Union in Brussels and Hague. And you cannot imagine, even good friends and allies of Israel are criticizing the fact that we are peace refusals, that we are not initiating anything, and we are they are considering a conqueror. And it doesn't matter if you are a liberal conqueror or a tougher one. So we have to take it into consideration, and there is no other alternative. If you look at it from the demographical point of view, if you look at it from the political point of view, if you will look at it from the international acceptance point of view, we have to initiate something, and that's the only way to stop such waves of terror.
So you spoke about this international convention that you went to abroad that was focused on the BDS movement and its effects on the world. How is Israel planning to combat BDS, and in your opinion, what do you think is the best way to do that?
Well, BDS is not one organization. BDS is a movement. BDS is an atmosphere. And it's due to the countries to decide if they are adopting embargoes or BDS steps or not. Now, the fact that there are too many or so many Palestinian communities, mainly in Europe, affects even a local supermarket or a local university or a culture event. And in order to fight it, in order to minimize it, Israel has to unite forces. Nowadays, the fight against BDS is divided between 4 or 5 ministries. It's the Foreign Ministry, it's the Mr. Ardan's, the Internal Security Ministry, etc. And you have to put it in one hand with one budget and one task force. Even if we will do it, it will not stop the environment, it will not stop the movement of BDS, but we can minimize it.
So there needs to be an essential large organization that's bringing all these people together to fight as one force.
What I'm calling a task force.
Right.
They've devoted to this issue, and they devoted to the fight against it. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the average citizen who wants to get involved in combating the BDS movement, what is your suggestion? How can they get involved?
As for individuals, I mean, the fact that, I mean, we have to say the truth. The European Union, by getting this decision or resolution, is a hypocritic one. Because let's take, for example, the Golan Heights. Even if Israel would decide today that we are getting out from the Golan Heights, to whom are we going to give it? There is no Syria. The Arab world is divided, struggles in a struggle against the radical Islam. So there is an hypocrisy in the European Union resolution. And we, every one of us, as individual, when he goes abroad, when he talks to foreigners, when he has a chance to talk in the media, has to at least give some examples, because the Israeli-Palestinian dispute is not the only dispute in the world. It's one of the disputes. And the European Union didn't give any resolution about Sudan or about Sri Lanka or about other places where there are still big disputes, and it's all aimed against us. So some of us are calling it anti-Semitism, which is true, but it's not the main issue. And some are saying, look, it's always to blame the Jews or to blame the Israelis, which is also right, but it's not the whole story. We have to fight, everyone in his own means, against such movements and against such criticism. And at the end, it sums to a better effect.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Israel may not make it to the finals of the Eurovision Song Contest this year, but there will still be a major Israeli influence on the popular event. This year, France will be represented by the Israeli singer Emile Haddad.
The 32-year-old star has already made major waves on other popular TV competitions. In 2014, he was a finalist on the French edition of the singing show The Voice. And in 2006, he made an appearance on the Israeli show A Star is Born. Haddad was born in Paris but immigrated to Israel with his family when he was just 8 years old. He's already produced his own album in Israel and has collaborated with other popular music artists. Haddad will be showing up at the 2016 Eurovision competition in Sweden to represent France, but it looks like lots of Israelis will be rooting for him as well.
הקדוש ברוך הוא מלך ואני עבדו אין עוד מלבדו מלוא כל הארץ כבודו.
By day, Jerusalem's popular food market Machne Yehuda is a popular tourist site. From early in the morning, the market's narrow alleys are packed with local shoppers and tourists pushing their way through the colorful bazaar. But what happens when it turns dark? We have the scoop.
Around a year ago, we started a project in the Shuk Machne Yehuda, and we decided to turn the empty shutters when the shops close in the nighttime into a gallery of art, of historical and inspirational characters.
Machne Yehuda has a great nightlife scene, and the market is always packed with bar hoppers and live bands. But now people are coming to the special market at night for an entirely different reason, to see the market's colorful new graffiti art. When the stall owners shut their shops for the night, they roll down protective metal shutters. It's those very shutters that have become the personal canvases for two Israeli artists. Solomon Souza and Berel Han have painted about 14 closed storefronts with graffiti-style murals of inspiring historical characters, ranging from biblical heroes to former Israeli prime ministers and founding fathers. The two friends came up with the idea after a late-night stroll through the market.
I was walking through the shuk on a Shabbat afternoon, and I envisioned it full of color and full of people. And it slowly developed into an idea to establish a historical, educational, inspirational gallery here in the shuk.
The artists began asking shopkeepers if they could brighten up their storefronts with colorful graffiti, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. Merchants have not only given the artists full permission, they've also put in requests for specific portraits. Yet most of the time, the artists get free rein, and the result has had a beautiful effect on the market. It's turned into an outdoor art museum at night, and the artists still have about 200 more shutters to paint.
Shopkeepers close their shops at night, and just by putting paint on some empty metal surface, it creates a magical world.
We have a really touching story for you. Over the weekend, an Israeli man came across a life-changing discovery in a flea market in Tel Aviv. Ziv Livni was taking a casual stroll in Jaffa when he noticed a velvet box for sale. And you won't believe what he found inside it.
The special box contained the memorial tag and rank of the fallen corporal David Brooks, a gunner who was killed 43 years ago during the Yom Kippur War. Livni purchased the memento, vowing to return it to the soldier's family. After searching online and getting help from dozens of Israelis on Facebook, he finally came into contact with a friend of the Brooks family. It turns out the 22-year-old fallen soldier left his home in southern Tel Aviv in 1973 to serve in the war, and he was killed in the Sinai Peninsula shortly after. He left behind a wife and a son and his mother, brother, and sister. Brooks's mother apparently passed away 2 years ago, but the family says they would love to get the box back. It looks like that's what will soon happen, because Livni is ecstatic about connecting with the family after what he's calling the craziest weekend of his life.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. This weekend we saw a lot of action in markets throughout Israel. So today's word is shuk, which means market in Hebrew. Israel's known for having lots of open-air markets, and there's one in basically every major city, from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. Israelis love to go to their local shuks to pick up fresh fruits and vegetables, or even just to wander around and have a coffee. But don't be surprised if you visit an Israeli shuk and hear lots of yelling. In Israel, the shuk isn't meant to be a quiet place like your neighborhood farmer's market. It's super busy, and you'll probably get pushed around a bit by visitors trying to make last-minute purchases or vendors trying to catch your eye. So here's our advice. Bring some cash with you and be prepared to bargain. Because if there's one thing Israelis like, it's someone who can strike a good deal in the shuk. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. It's the beginning of a new week, and the weather is looking great. Monday should be sunny with a high of 80 degrees. The sun will stay out through Tuesday, and the temperature will go up to 83. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.91 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.